Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for September. Joining me, I've got a couple of fellas who, they're kind of like the James Bonds of the tabletop Kickstarter scene at the moment. You know, you could say they're maybe not in the sea, so they're maybe not, you know, maybe they might just live twice. We don't know. They're definitely not octopusy. They're possibly Moonrakers though, because they're here to inject some fun directly into our veins. Because from IV Studios, and I meant that, we've got Austin Harrison and we've got Zach Dixon. So hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
No, the pleasure is entirely mine because, you know, I doff my cap and I tug my forelock at thee, because you have a Kickstarter called Moonrakers. See, I wasn't just being clever and smart, which is doing some cash. It's doing some money, and it's not because you've appeared on the show. It's almost like you're successful and now you're just about to rub it in my face while you are successful. But joking aside, you're doing really, really well. I mean, congratulations. You're over $224,000 at the moment with almost 3,500 backers. And still you've got about, just under 20 days. You've got about 19 days to go at the time of recording this. I guess the first thing is, what's mood like in camp? I mean, Austin, how's things feeling at the moment? You must be over the moon.
We're over the moon. There were a lot of space jokes. We're absolutely thrilled. I mean, when you put something like this out there, you just have no idea what to expect. And I remember clicking the launch button and just being like, well, here we go. And by the time the launch page had loaded, there were already like 5 to 10 backers. And I was like, how did they even know? Like, it just was so fast. And so at that point, we just kind of like buckled up and we're along for the ride. And we're just blown away by the response.
Because this is I'm right in saying, is this your first game that you've had out there?
Yeah,
you've not had any previous experience at all, no?
First tabletop game, yes. We did ship a video game a couple years ago called Bouncy Smash, but this is our first kind of physical product, first tabletop game.
I need to hear about Bouncy Smash. What's that all about?
Yeah. So I guess more background on our studio. We are actually a commercial animation studio. So that's kind of our up until this point, bread and butter. We work with clients like Bad Robot, Netflix, Amazon, to kind of help them. Yeah, we help them create commercial animations. And then we kind of branched into game development a couple years ago and made a mobile game called Bouncy Smash. Features a bouncy ball named Arlo who bounces and smashes his way to destroying a bunch of robot baddies. It's I think quite a good time, and we'd love to make more video games in the future as well. But we had an idea for a tabletop game, and we ran with it, and that was Moonrakers.
I mean, are you both? I mean, are you kind of guys like a Friday afternoon down tools and let's get some stuff on the table? Is that the kind of the way the office is? Or, I mean, do you play games together kind of outside of work? Are you both kind of quite big kind of tabletop fans yourselves?
Definitely. I would say, probably about half of, so IV total, there's 11 full-timers. Wow. But not, out of that group, there were 4 of us, that worked on Moonrakers, in a big way. And so I'd say about half of us are pretty into, board games. We've got a group of us who play Gloomhaven,
as often as we can.
Yeah, as often as we can. So we're probably about like 20 dungeons, or what are they called?
Yeah,
in that?
20 episodes in.
20 episodes into that.
Wow.
And yeah, so we have had a Dungeons and Dragons group for a little while in the office, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Austin did all the wonderful work of DMing.
I was
everything.
Terrible at it, but
no, you were great. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Did he do voices?
Oh, go ahead.
I did,
but
you do
they
voices?
all sounded like the same old man. I just couldn't get away from that same voice.
Can you do one for us now? Can you do a frightened owl bear? Can you come on?
No.
No, I think that's a bad idea.
Could you be a bad guy? Do a bad guy and say you're all going to the dungeon. Could you do that?
I can do a fantastic Smeagol. Am I allowed to do that, or is that?
I've totally this is. Just do this as long as it's under 5 seconds. You should be fine.
Right.
I don't think Pete Jackson stopped listening when I said
exactly.
When I said his last board game wasn't that great. So it's fine.
Oh,
do that. Well, they relaunched it. You know, District 9's relaunched. People didn't like the fact there was no asymmetry in the last version that they did.
Wait.
They've released a new version, so it's fine. Do your Smeagol.
Is Weta a Peter Jackson thing? Did I not know that?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. All right, well, I'll go for it. I think I'm going to get yelled at after this podcast.
I'm totally up for this. Come on, let's do it.
All right.
I'll tell you what. I'll lead you in. I'll do Gandalf, right?
Okay.
And then you
go for it.
Okay. Where is the ring, you disgusting little oaf?
Oh, please don't hurt us, Mr. Gandalf, sir. We don't know races.
I will take you aside later. You sit down there. I must go. I am late, but a wizard is never late. So there you go. Anyway, terrible impressions aside. So you're going through kind of like the Gloomhaven side of things, but that's a pretty big campaign and a very, very involved campaign. So what kind of spurred you on to kind of say, well, actually, guys, where did Moonrakers kind of come from? You know, where was the first kind of ideas?
Yeah, Zach and I have been playing games together since college, and some of our favorites most of them involve space, but Galaxy Trucker, Cosmic Encounters, Dominion are all just big favorites of ours, and I think there's definitely some inspiration to be seen in Moonrakers from each of those. But I think for us, like, Gloomhaven's obviously a very cooperative experience. Yeah. And we like cooperative games, but we're also extremely competitive and love having a winner at the end. And so I think going into Moonrakers, kind of wanted a little bit of both. Yeah,
and I think something that we kind of bring to all of our projects, even our commercial animation types of products, is we try to think about how does an experience make us feel. And so it kind of started from that. It's like, how do we make a game that puts us in a place that it feels like we're in a story that might be, you know, at home in like a Star Trek or a Star Wars universe, right? Like what is that going to be like to go on a mission with our friends? And can we build an experience around something like that? And so that's kind of where it began. And then we were able to kind of bring in Max, who's one of our other game designers. And then also we've worked with Alex Grendling, who did the art. And we worked with him also on Bouncy Smash and a few other things. And he brought his kind of incredible flair and design sensibilities to the project that also kind of cemented that universe. And then with Moonrakers in general, there's a few things that we really love, and I think we'll bring to all of kind of our games to the future is we really value games that have some kind of social aspect, right? Like we've got our friends gathered around a table. Like, we want to interact with each other. We want to, there'll be a lot of table talk and some bartering and social interaction. And you can definitely feel that in Moonrakers. And the other thing that we wanted to bring into it as well is very little downtime. We want to be able to be involved in other people's turns. And so kind of, with those kind of values, that's kind of where we started with Moonrakers, and we just kind of try to build towards that experience.
Did you, because you guys are in kind of like a creative production kind of environment, were you quite organized and disciplined about the way that you were putting the kind of the development together? I mean, I'm guessing that in an animation situation, you decide the idea, you decide how you're going to execute it, you storyboard it, you then decide from a technical point of view the number of different shots that you want, you then design the individual shots, you decide on the execution, and then you put the thing together after, testing how different animations would work and how everything kind of ties together. Did you try and maintain that same discipline when you were approaching Moonrakers, or was it a little bit more of an organic process, kind of everything kind of coming together?
I think a little bit of both. I think one of the things that was tricky, obviously, is we didn't know what we didn't know. It's our first time doing anything like this, especially at this scale. Like, we had never shipped a physical product before, so there's a lot of learning curve involved in that. And then also, like, in the prototyping phase, ideally it would be like, we set up a project schedule and some deadlines, and it's like, we need to have our, gameplay mechanics done by this date.
Which we did.
Yeah, which we did.
It didn't work.
And we built a prototype, and our first prototype was awful. It was no good. It was no fun. And so it definitely took substantially longer than we thought it would. Yeah. But it was a blast to work on, and we got it somewhere that we ended up loving. But that we definitely hit some hurdles along the way, especially, just because it was our first time doing it.
Is the version of the game that's currently sitting on Kickstarter, was there a huge amount of stuff that you kind of stripped out, or was there stuff that you ended up having to kind of add in, as you went through the process?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of stripping out. Yeah. The first iteration of the game was very, very involved. It was much longer missions. There was like HP on your ship, and there were like battles and enemy ships, and they had enemy decks, and we essentially stripped all that away and just kind of came down to contract cards that had some very simple requirements on it. And because essentially that was the process of the whole thing, right? It's like, let's get rid of anything that we don't love, and let's hang on and enhance the little things that are fun, and let's make sure we can find a way to do those things over and over and over again. And those things ended up being, allying with each other and kind of negotiating,
building an awesome ship.
Yeah, building an awesome ship. And building a deck that you love, that feels unique. And let's also find a way to make sure that building of a ship can feel drastically different from every single playthrough. So it's fresh every time you come at it.
Was it the general idea to go to Kickstarter from the beginning? Because I know that's kind of like, that seems to be where a lot of people kind of naturally drift to. Did you consider actually approaching kind of like a publisher at the time, or were you just like, I wouldn't even know how to approach a publisher, so let's take this to Kickstarter?
Yeah, I think we loved the idea of Kickstarter because there weren't any middlemen, and we could be very connected to the audience and be very listen to the people that are, investing in the game. And I liked those aspects of it, but it also gave us like a pretty clear path. There are a lot of really great, resources online of like, hey, this is kind of how you do this. And it just gave us stepping stones to get there. The Stonemeyer blog is probably one of the most talked about Kickstarter resources, but really just was huge for kind of giving us the milestones along the way to get there.
Yeah. And I think another thing, publishers are great, and can be very helpful with certain things, but I think the way that our studio is set up, we're used to marketing. That's what we we do all the time. We make videos for people that help sell products or advertise their services. And so we wanted kind of the opportunity to do that for ourselves. So we kind of wanted to use this as a practice of like, let's build an audience for something. Let's learn how to target advertising on Facebook and Instagram, and let's build those out. Let's see what works and doesn't work. Let's build our own email list and kind of, overall, we knew going into it was going to be one really big learning experience. And moving forward, we want to make more games. We want to make more board games and video games. We want to make our own intellectual property. And so this was really just a grand experiment of like, can we do this as a studio? And let's take what worked and what didn't work and bring that to the future projects that we're going to work on.
How did you find with the kind of the community? I mean, I'm assuming that there is kind of like on somewhere there is a kind of there's an animation kind of Facebook group and there's film Facebook groups and you guys all sit around and have discussions on that. Did you find that it was a similar kind of community? I mean, did you reach out into the kind of the tabletop community through kind of social media and start interacting to find your audience from there? Or, you know, how did you approach the kind of your audience? How do you find your audience from basically from nothing?
Yeah, at first it was very much just like kind of shouting into an empty room. We were just posting consistently every day, and the algorithms, I guess, really like that and just start showing it to more and more people. And so at first it was just, oh, hey, this artwork's cool. I'm going to give you a follow. And that was a slow conversation that we built up over 3-4 months before launch, that we were posting daily. And then from there, it started growing with people that had play tested the game, maybe at Gen Con or in Nashville, or people we sent copies to, because we sent out a lot of copies for people to play. And just to give a call out to our Discord, they have been amazing. Yeah. Just 150 people in there that give us feedback on almost everything we do before we do it, and just are really, really passionate about the game. A lot of them have already played the game, but that community did kind of like come organically, but a lot of them are seeing the game because they saw an ad originally too. So it's a good mix of people that we had come to us and people that we went out and found.
Okay. One of the things that we wanted to do as well is just make sure we had a lot of content. So we did a lot of photo shoots, and we made things like we made a graphic novel that kind of explains the backstory. We made like a fun kind of opening title sequence for the Kickstarter. We're trying to build that world, and I think that helps invite people in. But also, we invested really heavily in art. Alex Grendling is a world-class artist, and we knew that was really the only way that we're going to stand out is if things look great. And he was just a huge part of that. And I think that's what really kind of let us kind of get that snowball rolling down the hill. Totally. As we kind of started sharing Moonrakers with the world.
It led me to answer the email almost immediately, I think. When you reached out to us originally about kind of talking about kind of having organizing this, I think the first, I'm thirsty for good art, basically. I love a good bit of art. And, when your email came in and you said, okay, well, here's goes like, okay, I don't really care what this game is about. I just know I need to see some more of that sweet, sweet art. And that was it. And it's kind of like that was the kind of the way I like the kind of the abstractness of it. I like the kind of I don't know how you describe it. Am I right in saying it's almost like pointillism in terms of how it's graphically being produced? Lots of little dots, and I kind of loved that. And it was a case of, yes, I need to speak to these people, even if it's for 5 minutes, and it was just to kind of find out. But I think just looking at even the campaign page, the kind of the professionalism, you can tell that this is something you guys kind of do in a different aspect on a day-to-day basis, just with the way that you've kind of done that. Do you think that's kind of helped people landing on the page that even though, you know, if you look at it, it looks like, well, you've broken the cardinal rule of Kickstarter because you've only backed 23 projects. You've not backed like 150 like other companies done. And you hadn't created anything before. Do you think that campaign, the way you'd done the campaign page, was that, I mean, that's obviously helped, but was there a lot of work that went into that? I mean, you've got animations on there, so.
Oh yeah, it was a whole lot of work. We were a lot of very, very late nights. And yeah, I mean, just like so many animations on the Kickstarter page, and also the animation that kind of closes out our Kickstarter video. Just tons of late nights. It was a blast to work on, but yeah, you're right. I mean, tons of work. But one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that any interaction you have with Moonrakers and really anything that Ivy does, like we want you to know that we're going to put everything we've got into it. Because that's what we want to put into the world. Like we want you, I think it really helps build confidence as well too. Like every single part of that Kickstarter page we slaved over and we changed twice and redid it because we wanted to instill that confidence because we haven't built that confidence yet. Yeah. It's the only way that we can say like, hey, you don't know us. You don't know this game. But we're doing everything we can to make it as great as possible, and we're trying not to overlook any details.
Yeah.
Were you tempted to put little spaceship animations in some of your clients' stuff to subliminally pass the message about, and also in a kind of dodgy dealing thing? Is there kind of like a department head of Netflix who found he also helped to pay for several rocket ships and went, oh, these are cool. And it's like, it's the next series of Fuller's House. I didn't realize it was set in space. But we'll keep the rocket animations. Like, thank goodness you helped pay for this. But no, no, I was going to say, but in terms of the serious question is obviously in the rocket ships, how big were the fights in the office about which rocket ships were allowed in the game and how many of you kind of managed to get your little designs on the cards? Because I know that happened.
Honestly, all the ships are designed by Alex. And so... yeah, that's not true. Michael did some as well too. Yeah. One of our art directors on staff. So,
you didn't design a ship then?
I did not design a ship. No. No, it's pretty much just do a little sketch and then kind of move through to execution from there. So
Austin, did you design a ship? You designed the ship secretly, didn't you?
If I designed a ship, it would look like the equivalent of a stick figure ship. I am not a designer, sadly.
Help, we're getting attacked by a donut.
Exactly. It would look like a donut. Yeah.
That's a shame. But I mean, did you, as the art's kind of getting produced on the game, are you starting to think, like, when you were developing it, are you starting to think, well, this is something special? I mean, how long was it before you kind of put the kind of all of the art together? Did you just put a couple of kind of sample designs in the decks to give an idea, or did you kind of go all out on everything?
Yeah, so the art actually took quite a while to make, and I was impatient and had made really terrible, like, black and white, like, stickers on blank cards copies. Mm-hmm. And so the first few playtesters played with zero art almost, and it was really terrible. But as we went, we got a base, like, illustration for a shield, a thruster, a weapon. And at that point, we made an actual deck with just the same illustration over and over for each part. And that really helped, even though it was repeated. And then just the difference between that and then finally getting the final art in our playtest versions, like that day felt so good, where it was just like, oh my gosh, like everything's unique. And I don't know, that was the first time I was like, oh man, I can take this to, you know, the local game group in Nashville and show it to them and not feel weird about it. Because before I had just been making so many excuses because it was my terrible art. But that was a big moment for sure.
What's cooler, finishing the kind of, having a kind of a working copy of Moonrakers in your hand, or finishing like a project for a really big client? Or is it I love my children equally? Or was it like in the sense of satisfaction that obviously there is a sense of creating something for someone else, but you know it's paying the bills, but actually creating something and having it sitting in your hand, what was kind of cooler?
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. We love all of our clients and we love the work that we get to do for them. But there's nothing that compares to making something for ourselves. That, I mean, I think that's ultimately the most satisfying thing is like we made something from scratch, and at this point, 3,500 people decided that they wanted to buy that, and that is just so cool. And we are so thankful to all of those people. It's just there's nothing better than that.
How did you feel when it funded? I mean, because it sounds to me you obviously you know how to market, but then I have seen projects. I mean, I've been doing this for far too long, but I have seen projects that I thought that were dead certs kind of splutter and stall along, and I've seen other things like yourselves just take off. You know, catch fire. They're hitting the kind of the stratosphere and beyond. Were you? I mean, were you really, I mean, were you just sitting going, what kind of thing? Is this how it's meant to go? Or were you confident in, I mean, with you studying marketing, I'm guessing you looked at projections and conversion rates and stuff like that. Were you kind of surprised, or were you kind of like, well, we had a kind of an inkling that might kind of go this way?
I think, I mean, honestly, a little bit of both, but we also were operating on like 3 hours of sleep because we had just been spending so much time working on the page. So we got it, and I was just responding to comment after comment and social media posts, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we funded. Like, it was like surprised just because I didn't even realize any time had gone by. Yeah. And then Zach, I think, immediately had to start working on a client project that she'd been putting off. Oh, yeah. So like when that funded, Zach was actually like heads down on a project. And so we kind of had to take a moment and be like, oh my gosh, it funded. Because I think it funded. It was an hour and 6 minutes. Is that what it funded?
64 minutes, I think.
Hour and 4 minutes. Okay, yeah. So that blew us away. We did not expect it to fund that fast.
Definitely. That was huge. That's incredible. That's going to be pretty cool. Okay. I'm going to ask you separately, and then I want you to both give me an idea of how you play the game. You're not allowed to confer. Okay? So I want... what you can do, just cover your ears. It's like Mr. and Mrs. or something like that, you know. You get that on US TV. No, I'm only joking. You know, can you give us a rundown? I guess either of you, this is fine. You can, it's not a bonus question. You're not going to win a microwave or anything like that. The car is, the money in the car is still safe. You've banked that so far. But can you tell me, if I'm sitting with a deck of these fabulous looking cards, what am I going to be doing in Moonrakers? What's a round like? And either of you can pick. I'll pick a letter between A and Z. I guess.
So you're looking for what, like just what gameplay is like?
Yes, please. Yeah, I know I went a convoluted way around this. This is why I don't pitch to people. You know, I can't get my point across. Somebody please help me dig myself out of this hole. Tell me how to play the game.
Let's see. Given it, so it's basically all centers around completing contracts. So Moonrakers is a deck builder, 1 to 5 players, centers around completing contracts to earn prestige, which the winner of the game scores 10 prestige, making you the leader of the Moonrakers. And then you earn credits, which then let you buy crew and ship parts to
hire crew.
Oh, excuse me. Did I say buy crew?
You said buy crew again.
That's not good.
You don't buy people.
No. You earn credits to buy ship parts and hire crew, which makes your deck better, allowing you to go on more difficult and crazy contracts that get you more prestige and more credits. And then all the while you are essentially tackling contracts together with the people you're playing with. So you may invite allies to join you to take on contracts that you might be able to not do on your own. And then you need to kind of barter who's going to get what rewards, go back and forth. And yeah, first person to get 10 prestige wins the game.
Yeah, some of the favorite parts that are just kind of come out from playtesting, there's no like HP counters on your ship or anything. Every contract has a amount of hazard dice that you have to roll. And basically these just represent the things that could go wrong on the contract. So even if you finish the contract and succeed, maybe you ran headlong into an asteroid. And so that didn't make you look very prestigious. And so you can actually go down in prestige, which is our victory points, if you happen to roll poorly. So if there's a contract that was worth 1 prestige and you rolled 1 hazard dice and it said you had 2 hazards on it, if you couldn't block those with shields during the contract, you would actually go -1 on that contract. And so a lot of people really like the fact that if they tried a really risky contract alone, they had the opportunity to go big and get big points, but they had to roll a lot of dice, and so they could go down as a result of that. But if they worked together, they kind of spread that risk out, and it's a lot easier to block 1 or 2 hazards than it is 4, and especially because there's only 2 shields in your deck when you start. So the game kind of forces you to be friendly in the beginning, and I think that's my favorite part because I love that competitive or that cooperative feel. And so it's almost like you have to decide, when am I going to turn the corner and really start focusing on getting points myself to win?
I think, and kind of another of one of my favorite parts is just like kind of the crazy amount of combinations that you can do each game. So your ship has 4 different ship part slots. Each ship part has, it's almost a like special rule that just applies to you. So maybe it makes your reactors perform better or your engines perform better. But with the cards that we have with crew and ship parts, I think we calculated something like 184 billion possible deck combinations. So that variety each time you come back, I think, is also something that we're really stoked about. And then also, if you want to know how to play the game, we've got a bunch of great videos. We've got like a 140-second version on YouTube. If you just Google 140 seconds Moonrakers, we also have like a full kind of 15-minute how to play. It goes through like going on a few contracts, what that looks like. And then we've also got a Game the Game episode where you can watch me play with Becca Scott and Mark Streed.
And
cool.
Eliza,
yeah. Eliza's one. Yeah, so that was super fun being on set for that. Really loved that.
Was that done through in kind of industry contacts? Because I don't know many people who would just kind of walk on to kind of like game the game, to be honest.
Yeah, there is like they sit down and like take a look at your game, you send them the game, but it is also a paid advertising thing. So they're looking at games to make sure like, yeah, this is something we think can be successful. And so there's like an approval process, but then it also is a paid thing.
Cool. The little ships. Tell me about the little ships. What made you decide to actually put the kind of the little ships in the game?
That's a good question. I think so. We actually made an entire trailer, and cut it together. And we never finished it because some of the story elements of the game changed, and it no longer kind of worked for what we needed it to. But part of this trailer, we actually made a 3D version of 3 of the ships. So it was like, a full out CG, like looks photoreal. And we're like, wow, these
dogfights.
Yeah, these look awesome. Yeah. It was like this kind of like, almost like imagine like a scene from Star Wars is like, TIE Fighter versus X-Wing kind of like contract mission moment.
Obi-Wan versus Jango asteroid scene.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yep. Yeah. But we saw what the ships looked like in 3D, and we're like, wow, this is really fun. I wonder if we could 3D print these. And so do we have Max 3D print one to start to test?
Yep, Max made a model based on the model that we used in the video.
Wow.
And then he 3D printed one to test, but then we wanted to color them. So I went out and bought a bunch of spray paint, and that did not go well.
I still have some of those. Didn't look great.
They look terrible. And so we were like, all right, we have to get colored resin to do this. And so we had some of our friends here in Nashville at Fractal Hardware. They printed these on their Form 3D printer for us, and they are amazing, but as soon as you put them in a box and ship it across the country, those little guys do not hold up very well. So luckily for the people that have done the playtesting, I can happily say that not only will there be a box insert in the final version that will protect them, but we will not be using 3D printed miniature ships. They will be fully cast in PVC, and they're going to be much better. But we were really happy with them until we shipped them.
Yeah.
Because you're going to end up otherwise with like 5 little puddles of colour.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Basically, if we're going to be, this is great, but why did you send me the chewed gum? Thanks for that, guys. Kind of thing. From a business point of view, because obviously you guys kind of, you've got your different kind of, the company kind of going on. And this must be exciting for you to kind of reach this level of funding. You've got the deliverables and everything like that to go on top. Is this something you're going to look at as an addition to the business? Because from what I know people who have done $250,000 on Kickstarter. I know people who've done $140,000 on Kickstarter, and the same thing comes up and again, which is, yes, I know I did that amount of money, but I also had to spend about 95% of it in order to get the project kind of out there. So, totally. Are you looking at this with excitement to say this is great? But is it a case of, is there going to be a games division now of Ivy going forward? Is that something that you went, maybe we can do kind of more games?
That is definitely the goal. And I think we are well on our way there. It's definitely something we'll take stock of and figure out exactly how that might happen kind of moving forward. This is, we definitely invested a lot ahead of time in Moonrakers. And that was evidenced in hiring Alex for the art. It was evidenced in Austin spending his year of salary time on Moonrakers, and then also we've invested a lot in advertising as well too. So, but at the same time, we've got Sam, who is also one of the makers of Moonrakers. He's owns IV with me. He has kind of been behind the scenes doing all of all the spreadsheets, making sure we're hitting our margins on each copy of Moonrakers that we sell. So we make sure that we can sustain this, that we can kind of push forward into making more games, making expansions for Moonrakers. So a lot of this is really in hopes of setting up a full-time staff that can continue to work on things like Moonrakers moving forward. And we'll definitely have to kind of reevaluate all of that after we kind of wrap up this first one and kind of see what's next. But in that sense, to answer your question a very long way, yes, we would love to have to be the start of kind of a full-time staff just working on games at IV.
Have you had to go back to the drawing board with regards to stretch goals? Because I know that there's some businesses that have obviously they build that in. Simon naturally follow kind of like, let's get funded, and then we've got lovely stretch goals where you're like kind of going, guys, we've hit $200,000, we've no idea what we're going to be doing next. Let's go to the post-it note board and see what we can do, kind of thing.
Yeah. So one of our main things going forward, and just kind of a part of our company too, is like just trying to make things that we would enjoy and that we want to play. And for that meant making it a really high quality game. Things like metal coins aren't usually in a base version of the game. And some people didn't like that, but for us, it was like that's what we want to play and that's what we want to make. And so we just put all the stuff that we think would normally be in stretch goals in the game. Like we could have easily taken out all of the purple cards from the game and had each of those be a stretch goal. We could have made the cards just a base level card, because the purple cards, are the best cards in the game. They're like the top tier of each ship part that they're in. And then we could have made the cards a low quality and then gone to black core, but we started there. And so there was just so many things that were like, we don't want to risk not hitting that stretch goal and then not have that in the game.
Yeah. And then the other part, and this is all Sam's idea as well, is just like we don't want to get carried away with stretch goals and kind of eat away at any kind of profits that will help us to continue to make games, continue to make Moonrakers expansions, all that great stuff. And so we just wanted to make sure that everything about Moonrakers from the budget side is carefully planned. It's planned in a way that we'll have enough, wouldn't make enough money off of each game to advertise, and then also make enough money to continue making games to kind of be able to move forward and also support this game. So all those things kind of come together in kind of our reasoning behind not doing stretch goals.
Yeah, and then we actually saved some stuff to announce through updates, one of which happened today. So from the very beginning, we've been planning on doing spot UV on the boards and on the box. And that's just been the plan from the start. But we didn't tell anyone that until today, except for one guy in the comments was like, you guys should really do some UV on this. And I was like, well, we're planning on it, but you'll find out more in a week. So we have a few more surprises like that that we're looking forward to share. But yeah, it didn't feel like we needed the stretch goals to get the excitement when we knew we were going to be sharing content about the making of the game and then the cards in the game. And yeah, it just didn't feel necessary.
Yeah. And as I think Zach said, it's really important. You've got to know when you've got to say stop and the stretch goals are reached. And if you fund us more, then it just means more people are going to be getting the best version of the game possible. And I have seen kind of other campaigns kind of almost suffer in the end product because the stretch goals kind of, some of them added quality of life and some of them were adding on kind of bits in the game that you kind of felt were maybe carved out. And that's down to kind of, that can be down to kind of experience, but you're in the lovely place where you're funded and you're kind of like, well, everything else is kind of like a bonus. Have you got the next game in the planning stage, and are you moving towards more of a fantasy theme, potential dungeon based game after your experience with Gloomhaven, or am I just fishing to find out some information?
Wow. That was oddly on point. We literally had on my way into work today, I called Austin. I was like, I got an idea for a dungeon crawler. And
very early stages.
Very, very early stage, like literally like this morning. But we do not have any like firm, we just got this out the door. So like we've been really focusing on that. But we've started thinking about it for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think we're done with the Moonrakers universe either. We have a lot of cool possibilities for expansions after we deliver this guy, and then I want to do a Moonrakers 2, two Rakers. Wow, I really screwed that joke up, if you will. I think that it's just been such a blast working with this art style and with this backstory, and we think that there's a lot of room to grow in it. So, yeah.
I'd love to see some kind of FTL type game with this artwork. I don't know if you're aware of FTL, but it's kind of like a ship. Yes.
Yeah, Austin's pumping his fists over here.
Yeah, I love FTL, and I honestly need to listen to the soundtrack while I play Moonrakers. That would be great.
Yeah, I think a nice little, even a smaller mini game would be managing the kind of the ship. I'm on a managing the ship kind of trip because I played The Captain is Dead last week, and hated and loved that game in equal measure because of such a stressful, enjoyable kind of time it was. As normal, price on the door, price of entry. You know, I am knocking on the space dock and I want to get in. How much is it going to cost me in space buckaroos in order for you to open up the large door and let me fly inside the base? That sounded strangely wrong.
There's 2 pledge levels on the page. The first one is the base game that has everything in it that you've seen in all the videos that are out on the page. It has the metal coins and the ship tokens and everything, and that's $55. And then there's a Kickstarter exclusive version that we will never sell again. That has an alien kind of introduced environment.
First encounter.
Yeah, first encounter. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. That has alien ship parts, crew, and contracts that are different.
Cool.
And so it also has a exclusive box art as well that has an alien ship on it. And that's at $65.
That's kind of very middle pricing as well, in terms of I see a lot of campaigns sitting about the $100 level now, and to see something kind of sitting around about $55, is kind of like middle priced, middle tier quality kind of game. Yeah, you're kind of giving you an idea of the kind of the weight of the game as well, which is pretty cool. And as I say, we've got probably around about 18, 19 days. It's 19 days while we're recording, but it could be 17 days by the time I put this wonder together, as long as I decide not to take away Austin's Schmiegel impression.
Yeah, you might as well do that now.
I might as well not. I think I'm going to keep I think I'm going to check with my colleague, Zach. Do you think I should keep an Austin Schmiegel impression?
I don't know. I've heard that Schmiegel impression for over a decade now. So
I've heard you've got it as your ringtone. So you cannot.
That'd be terrifying.
It's your phone. It's your phone.
That's pretty good.
There you go. Yeah, well, man, so much you don't know about me. No, but I can only kind of wish you the best of luck kind of going forward in the campaign. If people have listened along and they do want to keep an eye on yourselves, where do you exist on the internet webs?
We exist pretty much everywhere. I mean, obviously check us out on Kickstarter, but you can follow us on, I think, pretty much all the social medias at Moonrakers Game. We're on Instagram and Twitter the most, so please reach out to us there. And then also, if you look around, you can find an invite to the Discord. We'd love to chat with you. Austin and I are on there pretty much every day, just kind of hanging out. We talk about all kinds of things, board games, talk about Moonrakers, talk about expansion ideas, all kinds of fun stuff. So please join us on there.
Cool. And I'll make sure that I put all the links in the show notes so that we have got notes to show. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for coming on. I am delighted the game is doing so well for you. It looks like it's going to do an awful lot more before the time the campaign ends. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, there is a couple of ways you can follow us. Just go to the internet webs and search for We're Not Wizards, and you shall find us on Instagram and Facebook and our website and our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. If you like to watch the terrible videos that we make, you can search for us on YouTube under We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast. If you want to continue to listen to us, and thank you for listening to us, and bless you all. Go to one of the podcast catchers of choice, ones that have got pod in them, some that have got cast in them, and some that are so tricky they've got neither, like Player FM and Stitcher and apparently Spotify. And that was just a terrible kind of decision for me to decide to go down the podcast thing. But there you go. If you like us a lot more, there's a couple of other things you can do. You can tell other people about us, because we spread just like measles at the moment. And we love those anti-vaxxers. You can tell somebody else. Or you can go to Apple Podcasts and you can drop us a subscription. Or you can drop us a rating. Or you can drop us a review. If you are going to be giving us a rating or review, don't give us 10 stars, because it makes us big-headed. But don't give us 1 star, because it makes us cry. And I am really old and I'm an ugly crier. Give us something in the middle, like a 5. Because it's average, and we're just a little bit average. But the gentlemen who have not been average tonight, I have the rather wonderful Mr. Austin Harrison and his wonderful colleague, Mr. Zach Dixon. So thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a blast talking to you.
You're very, very welcome. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, gentlemen?
No, we're not.
No, we are not wizards.
Absolutely fantastic. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So, say goodbye, Zach.
Oh, goodbye.
Say goodbye, Austin.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and look, go to the Kickstarter page and check out the art. And if your fingers aren't kind of floating over that pledge button by the time you've looked at this delightful stuff, I can't help you. I really can't help you. But until the next time, Goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.